Hi, welcome to Train Signal. My name is Bill and this lesson is configuring email for SharePoint. Now in this lesson, just like the title says, we are going to configure both our incoming and outgoing email for SharePoint. This is going to allow us to set up SharePoint to send us alerts on a list or library when changes have been made, if people add things or edit them. We'll also be able to go ahead and send, for example, a document right to a SharePoint library. So really exciting stuff, and we got a lot of work ahead of us. So let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, so here we are in Central Administration, and as you saw, we're going to start by configuring our incoming email. And I'm doing this, there's no particular reason why I'm starting with incoming or outgoing. There isn't one that's better to start with than the other. Quite honestly, the reason I'm starting with the incoming email is because it is the one that requires the most work. We're going to have a lot more stuff to do. And quite frankly, I like to get that out of the way first because by comparison, when we do the outgoing email, it's going to seem like nothing after what we've had to do for the incoming. Now, the first thing we have to do isn't actually even done here in SharePoint. We're going to have to go to our Active Directory, but I want to show you why before we go ahead and get there. So let's go to System Settings, and we're going to spend a lot of time in here today. System Settings, Email and Text Messages, and we're starting with Incoming. Configure Incoming Email Settings, and you see we also have Outgoing, but we're going to do that later. So we'll click on Configure Incoming Email, and here, look at this message. This is very important. The SMTP service is not installed. For information about the SMT, well, you don't need to look at that. That's why you got me. But that is important. The SMTP service is not installed. And we're going to do that. We are going to get to that step, but not for a little while yet. We're going to just go ahead and leave this at OK because I want to show you something. Because we're using Active Directory and we're using Exchange. Now, SharePoint allows for using other email systems, but we're using Exchange. Exchange 2013, by the way. So if you haven't seen Exchange 2013 yet, you're in for a big treat. We'll go ahead and work with our Exchange Admin Center. But I want to show you one thing here that's very important. To use a directory management service, you need to provide the SharePoint Central Administration Application Pool account with write access to the container you specify in the Active Directory. So that's very important. We're going to need to know the Central Administration Application Pool account. And if you don't know what it is, don't panic. We can go to IIS and find that out. I'll show you that in just a little bit. Then we're going to go to AD, Active Directory, create an organizational unit, and we will give that container special permissions to create and delete and manage user accounts right to that container. And that's just the start of it all. So rather than me talking about it, let's go ahead and let's do it. It'll all make sense in just a few minutes. So we're going to need to switch over. Well, actually, before we go to AD, I've already got IIS Manager open to our application pools, and highlighted is our SharePoint Central Administration Application Pool, and as you can see, it is our SP Farm account. So if you don't know which account it is, simply go here and take a look. All right, and that's really all we need for IIS. So we can go ahead and close that. And actually, let's get back to Central Administration. We'll come back there later on. And let's hang on while we switch over to our domain controller and Active Directory users and computers. All right, here we are in Active Directory. And we can see that I already have an OU called SP users. And this is where I have all of our SharePoint users right now. You can see I'm in there. And if you remember Jennifer Owens, we made her the site collection administrator on the site collections that we created along with myself. And these are some of the other employees at GlobalMatics. Now, what we need to do is go ahead to our GlobalMatics domain, right click, and create new organizational unit. And we're going to give this a name. This is where our contacts are going to go. So we're going to put SP contacts. That's going to be the name of our OU, and there it is. Okay, great. Simple. my guess is most of you probably already know how to create an organizational unit here in Active Directory, but we still want to make sure in case this is new to some of you. Now we have to go ahead and give this OU those special permissions. So we will right click and choose Delegate Control. It brings us our delegation of control wizard up. We'll simply click Next. And we need to go ahead and add that Central Administration Application Pool account, and that is SP Farm. So we'll click on Add and simply check that name, make sure it's there. Good, looks good. Click Next. Now in here, we want to go ahead and select this box, or I guess that's a radio button, not a box. Create a custom task to delegate. Select Next. And on here, we can leave it at the default, this folder, existing objects in this folder, and creation of new objects in this folder. Click Next. Aha, now here we go. Here we have to start checking some things. We're going to make sure that General is checked and creation, deletion of specific child objects. And we can see the two we're looking for right there. We don't even have to scroll anywhere. Create all child objects and delete all child objects. We'll select Next and Finish. Great. Now, by doing this, it allows the administrators to enable email for a list or a library. But once we've done that, your admins can't disable email for the list or the document library because our central admin account, that SP Farm account, tries to delete the contacts from the whole organizational unit instead of from the list or the library. So in order to avoid that, we need to go ahead and add another permission, the delete subtree permission, to our account. And to do that, we're going to need to show advanced features in AD users and computers. So we go up to View and choose Advanced Features. See that? We got a few more things available to us now, don't we? All right, let's find our SP contacts again. Right click. This time we're going to go down to Properties. And see what it does is it gives us, by choosing that Advanced Features, it gives us the Security tab. So we'll go ahead and click there. And from the Security tab, we will click Advanced. Now in here, we want to make sure we're on the Permissions tab, and we want to find our SP Farm account, which is right here, almost up at the top. Let's double click that, and it brings up our list here. And the type is we wanted to allow, which is the default, but we have other options, deny. And the one we want is right here, delete subtree. That's all we need to do. Go ahead and choose OK, and then OK, and then OK. And we can go ahead and close Active Directory at Users and Computers. All right, now that wasn't so hard, was it? Now we need to go ahead and move on to our SharePoint server once again, because we're going to install the SMTP service on that server. So hang in there with me while we go ahead and make that switch. All right, we're back here on our SharePoint server, and we need to go ahead and start our server manager, which in 2012 is this little icon right here on the taskbar. They make it easy for us. We'll wait a few seconds while this checks to make sure everything is running okay. Looks good. Nope, I think we're done. Now we're going to go ahead, and it's really easy right here. Number 2, add roles and features. And it brings up the add roles and features wizard. And this screen, you'll notice there is a skip page by default checkbox. So you can go ahead and click that because you really don't need to do anything on this screen. It's just telling you the kind of things that you can do and what's expected. And usually I would turn this off, but I've left it here for you in case this is your first time dealing with Server 2012 and the Server Manager. I don't want you to get to this screen and say, hey, wait a minute, Bill didn't show us that. I didn't see that. So we're going to just leave this here for now. We'll choose Next. And select the installation type. It is role-based or feature-based. That's what we need. Go ahead and choose Next. Select the servers, and, well, we only have one. Our SharePoint server, that is the one we want, so we're good. Choose Next. And notice over here we are looking at server roles. And if we scroll down, we are not going to find the SMTP service because it's not a role, it is a feature. So we will click on features. And now when we go down, we see the SMTP server. And when we click on that, we look and see all of the other tools that will be installed along with it for us. These might not have been installed in an older version. If you're using an older version of Windows Server, these might not have been installed automatically when you're doing the SMTP server, so you have to make sure that those are there or go ahead and add them in later. But these are all good. This looks good. We're going to go and choose Add Features and select Next. And again, it's going to give us a double check here. Yep, all of this stuff is stuff we need. And I will click on Restart the destination server automatically if required. I don't believe it's going to require a restart. So we're going to go ahead and choose Install. I like to check that anyway, just in case. And here we go. Now this is going to take a little bit of time, so it's at this moment I'm going to pause, and we'll be right back when it's done. All right, we're back, and you'll see that our installation has succeeded. It did not restart like I figured, so we can go ahead and close that. We can close the server manager. We're done with that. We need to get down here, get to our start screen, and start up our IIS 6.0 manager. Because we want to check and make sure there's our SMTP virtual server that we just created. We want to make sure that that is running. So we will right click, and you see that the start is grayed out. That's great. That means it's started. If it was not, you would click on that to get it started, but it is started, and that's great. That's exactly what we needed. We're also going to look at a couple of other things. We need to check on a few settings to make sure everything is what we need it to be. We'll go ahead and select Properties. And we're going to go up here to the Access tab. And up at the top, you see the big authentication button. Click that, and we want to make sure that the anonymous access is checked. And it is, which I expected. That's great. Now, down here at the bottom, we're going to go ahead and select Relay. And we come here, we see it's asking us to select which computer may relay through this virtual server. By default, it should say only the list below. That should be what's checked, and that's what we want to leave, rather than all except for the list below. And we're going to come down here and make sure that allow all computers which successfully authenticate to relay regardless of the list above. We want to make sure that that's checked as well. And so we're not going to make any changes in here. We just want to, again, double check, make sure that everything is what we expect it to be. So we'll go ahead and click OK. OK. And there's one more thing we want to do. We want to click on domains, and we see our GlobalMatics domain. I'm going to right click there, show you properties, so that you can see the address of our drop directory, inetpub/mailroute/drop. Now I know where this is if you don't remember, so that's okay. We're going to go ahead and take a look at this a little bit later, but for now, I just wanted to show you where it was. So we click OK. Okay, now we need to go ahead and do a quick IIS reset. So quite simply, we'll go to PowerShell, run as administrator, and do a quick IIS reset. Successfully stopped, and now it's trying to restart. Beautiful. All right, and now we will go ahead and move on over to our Exchange server and start working with some things over there. Okay, well, we are on our Exchange server now, so let's go and get our start window up. And we'll need to go to the Exchange Administration Center, our EAC, and when we look for it, we're not going to find it because it's not the kind of tool we're used to. It's not a management console like we're used to using. It is now web-based, and we'll need to know the address of where it's located. And if you don't know that address, don't panic. That's why I'm here. I'm going to show you a quick little bit of PowerShell to go ahead and locate where it's at. So we'll go here to our Exchange Management Shell, right-click to run as administrator. Wait for a minute while it connects. Oh, that was pretty quick. Good. And rather than type it out, I have it open in Notepad so you can get a good look at it here. This is that PowerShell command, and all you need to do is go to the Exchange Server section on TechNet. That's where I found this. It's there for you to go ahead and just copy and use. You'll notice that it is giving us the location of the internal and external URL. Now, we don't have any external URLs, but for this, we're going to simply just need to get the internal, but I'll copy the whole piece here and paste it in and run it. Give it a second here. And there it is. https://gmexe-13.globalmatics.com/ECP. That is the local address of our Exchange Administration Center. So that's where we need to go. All right, we have that down. We can close this and we will open up our browser. And I already have the site bookmarked. And it takes us here because we're going to need to sign in, of course. And here we are in the Exchange 2013 Admin Center. Excellent. And we see all of the mailboxes for all of our SharePoint users. We're here now because we need to go ahead and create a new send connector. And to do that, we're going to choose Mail Flow. And up here at the top, Send Connectors. And we will click on the plus sign to create a new send connector. We need to give it a name. And like it says here, create a meaningful and distinguishable name. So I'm going to call this GMSP Incoming. That's pretty obvious. And the type is going to be internal because we're simply going to route our mail internally. We will choose Next. And we're going to have to select from here, Route Mail through Smart Hosts. Now it's the only option because in the previous screen we selected to route internally, but if we were going to send our mail out to the internet, we would have to be using DNS MX records, and you see that is that option here that's grayed out. Now we need to go ahead and create a new smart host, so we'll click on the plus sign and create a new smart host, and you'll see here it's asking for the FQDN of our SharePoint server, and we know that that is GMSP-13.globalmatics.com. Go ahead and click Save, and then Next. Notice that it's there. It's been added. For our smart host authentication, we'll select None, choose Next, and we need to go ahead and add the address where the SMTP server is going to be. So we'll click on plus to add. See, it's SMTP is the type. That is already there. That's what we need. We need to add the FQDN again of our SharePoint server. And save that. And then click Next. The source server, this is our Exchange server, so we will go ahead and add that. And it's looking and it found it because it's the only Exchange server we have, but we need to make sure we add it. Looking good so far. Excellent. Choose OK. Then we can go ahead and select Finish, and we are done with our send connectors. Whew. Boy, we've done a lot of work, haven't we, so far? I told you this was going to be very involved, a lot of steps. Now it's time to go back to our SharePoint server to configure our incoming email settings. All right, back to central administration. Whew. Let's go ahead and let's select System Settings. Once more, configure incoming email settings. And this time, rather than just looking here, we're actually going to do stuff. First thing we want, do we want to enable incoming email? Well, yes, that's why we're here. So we'll go ahead and select yes. The settings mode, we'll leave it at automatic. If you go ahead and look at the advanced mode is necessarily only if you are not using the SMTP service to receive incoming email. Well, we are using the SMTP service. We just installed it and we just configured our send connectors and everything. So we're fine at automatic. So scroll down a little bit more. Are we using directory management service? I should say so. So we're going to click on yes. Oh, we got a lot more stuff there, don't we? That's exactly right. Remember that OU that we created in Active Directory? We need to go ahead and tell it where that is. So, and you can see in the format here that we should all be used to. It is OU equals, and it was SP contacts, comma, DC equals globalmantics, comma, DC equals com. All right, our SMTP mail server, it's already there for us. Do we want to accept messages from authenticated users only? Yes. Allow creation of distribution groups? Yes. Distribution group request approval settings, we want to create new basically we're leaving all of the defaults here. That's just fine for us. The incoming email server display address, gmsp-13.globalmantics.com. Safe email servers, we're going to again leave this at the default to accept mail from all email servers, but of course you can also go ahead and specify safe email servers. But we are good to go. Everything's looking good, so we will click OK. All right, at this point, we've done everything that we need to do with our SharePoint server, with our Exchange server in Active Directory. Everything is done. All we need to do now is go ahead and go to our site collection, our site, to a particular document library, and configure the incoming email settings there. So we're going to switch to a client machine now. So here we are at the finance team site, and we're going to go to a document library called contracts that they already have created. So let's click there, and you'll see up here we're going to click on the library tab, get our ribbon out. We're going to go to library settings. Now remember, we're setting the incoming email for only this particular document library. SharePoint, Exchange, everything is ready for us to do this in all of our sites, all of our libraries, all of our lists, but we're just picking this one particular one. But the process is the same for all of them. You'll see here that we have incoming email settings, so we'll click there. And do we want to allow this document to receive email? Yes, yes we do. That's why we're here. And we need to go ahead and give it an email address. It's already at gmsp-13.globalmantics.com, and because it is the contracts. And the rest of these are all going to be left at the defaults. Do we want to save all attachments in the root folder? Yes, that's the really cool part if you ask me. We're going to be able to go ahead and email a contract right to this library. Overwrite files with the same name? No. Save original email? Yes, no. Again, it all depends on what your preference is. In this case, because it is a document library and all we're really interested in is getting those documents there, I'm going to leave it at no. Do we want to save email meeting invitations in this library? No. Again, same with the messages. We're just about saving contracts here, so we'll leave that at no. And the email security policy, we're simply going to leave this on the default to only accept email messages based on the document library permissions, as opposed to allowing any sender to go ahead and send things to this library. So let's go ahead and choose OK. And we're all set. All right, now we're going to go ahead and so I can show you that this worked, show you what we've done, we're going to go back to Active Directory. So hang on there with me. All right, we're back at Active Directory, and we're going to select the OU that we created, our SP contacts, and look at that. There's the contact for that contracts library. That's a good sign. That's what we wanted. That lets us know that everything went okay. Now let's go ahead and let's look for this again in Exchange on our EAC. All right, we're back at our Exchange Administration Center. We're going to click on Recipients. And if we look down, we don't see contracts. It's because it is a contact, not a recipient. So when we click there, we see it here. Global Mantex Finance Mail Contact. Oh, this is great. Everything is going good. This is what we want. This is what we're looking for. We're not doing anything in here. We're just checking. I'm just showing you. Lets us know that all of this is good. All right, now let's go back to our client machine and let's send an email. Let's go ahead and send a document to that library. Okay, we're back at the client machine. I'm here in my Outlook, and we're going to create a new email. We're going to send this to that contact, the contracts document library at gmsp-13.globalmantics.com. All right. Let's go ahead and call this contract. And all we are going to do is attach the cleaning service contract. Excellent. Let's go ahead and let's send. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording for a little bit, and I'm going to go restart the SharePoint server. Now, I've noticed that occasionally, at least for the very first time when we go and send an email like this, to help move things along a little bit quicker, it helps if I go ahead and restart that SharePoint server. So I'm going to do that, take a little break, and when I come back, we'll go and see if we can't find that email. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back at our finance team site, and what we want to do is go right to that contracts document library and see if indeed, and there it is, the cleaning service contract that we just went ahead and emailed right to this library. So it worked. Everything worked. All of the hoops we had to jump through, all of that work, everything we did on all of our servers, configuring right here in the site collection in that document library, everything worked. This is what we wanted. Pretty cool stuff. All right, we're going to take a look at one more thing. We're going to do this again, and I want to show you something very quickly. Let's go to Library, Library Settings again, Incoming Email Settings once more. And when we did this before, we left the defaults and we told it to not save the original email. Well, this time we're going to say yes. We're going to tell it, save that original email. We'd like to see it. Let's go back to our Outlook and let's send another contract. Go ahead, this one we will call the add contract because that's what it is. Let's attach that file, advertising contract, insert, and send. All right, now let's go ahead quickly and let's get to our SharePoint server. We're back at the SharePoint server, and let's go and take a look at our drop folder. We'll go to our File Explorer, Local Disk C. Remember where it was? iNet Pub, Mail Route, Drop. There is the email in that drop folder. Now, if we close this and come back in just a little bit, in fact, maybe even if this quickly, if we come back, it might not be there again. See that? It's gone. So that's how fast it moved through. That's why I said we got to do this quickly. All right, let's go back to our client machine and back to our finance team site. And we got to move quick if we want to catch that mail while it's in the drop folder. All right, let's go back to our contracts and look at that. There's the advertising contract, and there is that original email that we sent. Do we want to? Yes. We can save it, and we can open it, and it's simply going to open up in our Outlook. And like I said, you know, I didn't necessarily see a reason or a need to save the email, but for whatever reason you might have, it is an option that you can have. All right, so we did it. We configured our incoming email successfully, and now we can go ahead and do our outgoing mail. And don't worry, the outgoing is much, much simpler. Not nearly as much work as the incoming. I know it was a lot of work, a lot of hoops we had to jump through to get this going, but trust me, the outgoing is going to be much, much easier, much quicker. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. All right, after spending all of that time configuring our incoming email, it's time for us now to go ahead and configure our outgoing email. And this is going to be a lot easier. It's going to take us a lot less time. And we're starting on our Exchange server here. And once again, we are in our Exchange Admin Center, as you can see. I'm here at the mailboxes. This is not where we need to go. We're going to go back to mail flow. Remember, we were here doing the incoming email. We clicked on our mail flow and we started with send connectors. Well, this time we're going to go ahead and start at receive connectors. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And we'll give it a minute here while it loads. And there we go. We have to start by creating a new receive connector. So we will click on the plus sign, and notice that we've got a few there already by default. And we are going to go ahead and select a new one. Come on, give me it. There we go. Click on the plus sign, and it gives us the new receive connector window, and we have to give it a name. So we're going to call this one GMSP outgoing. See a theme here, don't we? And it's already got the server, our Exchange server, in there. That's good. And the role, this is going to be the hub transport. And this time we're just simply going to go ahead and leave it at custom. So we're good to go. Let's click on next. Now we're here on the network adapter bindings, and this is fine. The defaults are just fine for us here. So we'll go ahead and click on next. And now the remote network settings. Okay, this one we do have to change. And we can simply go ahead and edit by clicking here on the pencil this IP address. Come on. It's being temperamental. There we go. That's what I want. It's taking a little bit of time here. We're actually going to take this out, and we simply need to put in the IP address of our SMTP server, which, as we know, is our SharePoint server in our case, and that is 192.168.12.220. Great. And we'll go ahead and save that. Make sure it shows up there, and double check, make sure it's right. And we will simply go ahead now and click Finish. All right, and there we go. And we make sure that we have our receive connector, GMSP outgoing, and that it is enabled. It's a hub transport. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and double click on this because I want to open up this section here and go to security, because there is one thing I want us to look at. Permission group. Specify who is allowed to connect to this receive connector. For us, right now, we will go ahead and select anonymous users, but you see that we have all of the different options there. So we'll go ahead and select save. And that is all we need to do here on the Exchange server. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to switch to our SharePoint server. So hang in there with me, and we'll make the switch. All right, we're back here in Central Administration. We will go to System Settings, and this time configure outgoing email settings. And in the first line, our outbound SMTP server, we need to put in the FQDN of our Exchange server, which was gmexc-13.globalmantics.com. Great. And then we have to give it a from address. And because this is from the, well, let's go ahead and let's put down administrator. gmsp-13.globalmantics.com. And I'm actually just going to copy that and put that in as the reply to address as well. And we can also change the character set if we want to. but we're fine with the Unicode, so we will select OK, and that's it. That's all there is to configuring that outgoing email. And you're probably thinking, wow, that's it after everything we had to do for the incoming? That's a lot easier. And you're right, it is much, much easier, isn't it? Now we're going to go ahead, we're going to go back to our team site, to that contracts library, and we are going to create an alert so that if anybody makes any changes to that library, we will be notified automatically as to what those changes were. All right, so let's go ahead and let's switch over now to our client machine. And we're back here at our finance team site. We'll go to the contracts library, and once again, we will click on the library tab, and now we see this button that says alert me. That wasn't there before. That's there because we went ahead and configured our outgoing email. Let's click on that to set an alert on this library. We can give the alert a title, contracts, which is the name of the library, and that's fine. We could change it if we wanted to, but it's okay. Send alerts to, and we see that our name is there, and that's good. That's a good thing. If we see that there, we know things are all going well. You'll notice here up in the upper right corner, you can see that I am signed in as myself. That's why my name is here, but I can add other people into the mix. Let's go ahead and let's add Jen Owens. It recognizes the name and adds her to our alert list. And the delivery method is going to be email because we have not done anything to configure SMS messages. And what kind of alerts do we want? Do we want to be alerted when all changes are made, or just new items, existing items, when items have been deleted? We're just going to leave it at the defaults for all of these. We can set alerts when anything changes, when somebody else changes a document, etc. And then when to send the alerts, you can set them up daily or weekly. You can set a time and a date. And quite honestly, between you and me, if you set it to all changes or anything changes, you're going to start getting alerts pretty frequently, especially if it's a library that a lot of people use a lot. So you may want to eventually set them up on a weekly basis. But for now, just so that we can see it, we're going to leave it at send notification immediately. Let's go ahead and select OK. All right, let's go ahead now and let's go to our inbox. And there it is. There is our alert. Look at that. It's in there already. And you see, we will receive alerts according to the delivery method. So this is just an email letting us know that the alert has been set up. And now when anybody makes changes to that library, we'll go ahead and we will get that alert. So there you have it. That's how you go ahead and configure your incoming email and your outgoing email from SharePoint. That's it for this lesson, gang. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.